The latest versions of the Zowie mice are really good. I've already gone through some of the tests in the U2 review, so instead of reviewing all these and wasting your time showing performance that we know is good, I figure it would be more helpful to make a shape guide for you. So with all these options, which is right for your hand size and grip style? Zowie sent me the ZA13, FK2 and S2 because that's all that's been updated so far, but I'll show you the previous versions for the size guide as they should be the same, so if or when they do release those, this video will still be accurate. These mice are going back after the video, no bias. I've just always loved Zowie mouse shapes. It's a nice chance to go over what makes them so good, and who they're actually for. I'll group the sizes together to make the hand size recommendation easier, so pay attention to the shape explanations and which grip you use. Then choose the size that suits your hand. Make sure you have your measurements ready. Okay, here we go. So there is one asymmetrical mouse, the EC, and 4 symmetrical mice, the FK, ZA, S, and U. If I show you the 4 symmetrical mice, you might be forgiven for thinking they all look pretty similar. And you're right, because first they had the FK, then they wanted a higher back, so they made the ZA, then some said the FK was a bit long and thin, so they made it shorter and wider and came up with the S, and then they wanted an S but for claw grip, so they made the U. So all of them are based on the FK, just higher back, shorter and wider, and then shorter and wider but made for claw grip, so it actually went thinner in the middle. I'll show you the differences so that doesn't sound too confusing. Let's start with the base shape, the FK2. From the side you see it has fairly low button height, a gradual slope leading up to the top, where you have a middle hump that is fairly flat across the middle. In fact, even when you view it from the front or back, it's actually quite flat. As I've said before, I think this is because when you put 2 fingers on the mouse, this section of your hand rests there, just under your fingers. And that section is actually flat too, so they match. On the ZA, they rounded it, so it doesn't match that section under your fingers. It was hard to tell that properly with the FK being long, but with the S2 being shorter, you can check how it feels compared to the ZA. And to me, the flatter top seems better. That's for standard grip. If you use a grip with 3 fingers on top, the ZA might feel better, because you get that curve under your fingers, and the rounded back actually suits that. Although personally, I still feel it's more comfortable in the standard grip. So let's move on to the next. The back of the FK is low, so if you like a bit of your palm on the back of the mouse, this takes some adjusting. I actually do rest mice against the right of my palm to help with control, so it was easier for me to get that grip on the ZA, S, and U. But even with that in mind, I still like the FK shape. Next, the sides. They're symmetrical with buttons on the left only, made for right-handers. But there's subtle curvature on the vertical and horizontal. The vertical curvature helps with picking it up, so you get these slight ledges. Almost no lip like on the G Pro Wireless, so you don't get that downforce. And sometimes that feature can upset the feel. But the upper curve is the most important, because we pick up mice to reposition them a lot. Zowie have some of the nicest side curves of any mice. Not too deep, not too shallow. Just enough for comfort and grip, but maybe a bit much on the U, because that's like the S but with even deeper sides. Creating this really thin grip area kind of forces it back into your palm, which is why I think it's for hybrid palm claw grip. If you grip like this, then yeah, give this one a look. The only issue there is I don't have much room under the side buttons. My thumb fits perfectly on the others, but it hits the side buttons on this one. Unless you're using your thumb tip in that claw grip, then yeah, this works. But I think it actually works best for 1-3-1 grip, 3 fingers on top. The others work fine too, but the U is slightly better. As you can see, my little finger just fits in a bit better there, because it goes in deeper sooner, meaning less hump getting in the way of the little finger. Due to that inward curvature, all 4 flare out at the front and back, which is actually good for stability. As said in the top mice for Counter-Strike and Valorant video, for stability, you want more than twice as long as the mouse is wide, the 2:1 ratio. Check that for the explanation. The FK2 has the best ratio for that. An easy way to understand it, in 1vs1 Quake Live, I aim best with the FK2, because it's mostly left and right aiming, so I need that stability. But in big matches like 5vs5, where you have multiple targets all around you, I'm looking up and down, left and right a lot, so the S2 is actually easier to aim. That's what threw me off all those years ago. I was playing the bigger games more often, so I thought okay, the S2 is better for me. But then jumping back into 1vs1, I've realized that the FK2 is better for me. So which is right? As said, it's both. It depends what kind of game you're playing. And lastly, the buttons have a bit too much height next to the wheel, so I think these would be better with deeper comfort grooves. But everyone has a preference there. They're still good, I just think they could be better. Okay, hopefully all that explanation made sense. Now let's break down arguably the most copied shape around, the EC. Why is this shape so popular? You could say the grip is more natural. A lot of people can pick this up and say yeah, this feels good. This is a Microsoft IntelliExplorer type shape. The idea being that it follows the natural curvature of your hand when you just raise it a bit, so like this. Notice a similar shape? It even works in 1-3-1 grip, and unlike the others, it works quite well for palm grip, but it's not exactly good for fingertip grip, and the buttons are a bit high. Claw grip is pretty good on it too though, again due to the natural curvature. I've heard some people experience pain with symmetrical mice, so these more naturally curved mice can be better. From the side, as said, fairly high buttons, which I'd say isn't great for aiming. Rounded hump in the middle gives good support for palm. High point on the left, slope toward the right side, helping it feel more natural. That's actually the main curve that sells this mouse. Then big slope toward the back, so you don't have your palm raised off the pad. And it follows the natural shape of your hand there too. It's quite stable, length and width wise, but it flares out a lot on the thumb side. That means if you try to micro adjust this mouse, you're going to hit that section under your thumb. Only the FK is long and thin enough to get around that, giving you some slight room to micro adjust. But I wouldn't say the EC is for that style of aiming anyway. You'll either be using wrist or arm aiming with this. It's not made for fingertip aiming. Similar to the others, it has vertical curvature to help with picking it up, and again, subtle curves on both sides. It's the same design philosophy, just on an asymmetrical shape now. There is just enough curvature on Zowie mice to help with grip, aim, and comfort. It's not overdone, it's really well balanced. There's a bit more curvature in the buttons on this one too. I'd like to see that on the FK. Now let's talk sizes and recommendations. I'll put the dimensions on screen for each mouse so you can compare them. For hands around 18cm, you want to look at the FK2 and S2 for fingertip and claw grip, EC2 and ZA13 for palm. For hands around 19 to 20cm, look at the FK1, S1, ZA12 and U2. That's for fingertip and claw grip, so you don't really have a good option for palm. You'll need to look at the EC1. Although the ZA12 might be okay. You can give that a try if you really want palm grip. For hands above 21cm, look at the FK1 Plus and ZA11. That's for fingertip and claw. EC1 for palm, maybe. Probably more comfortable at 20cm, but you don't really have many options. The EC1 is a huge mouse. There is an EC3, but it's basically a slightly shorter EC2, so that one has the same hand recommendations. Now here's a button sound check for each. So one issue is that left and right are relatively hard to press in. I actually noticed it in game too. That said, it wasn't a deal breaker and did help prevent accidental clicks. They're all fairly consistent across the new copies, with only slightly different sound and feel. The wheel has never been good for me, still got limbo jumps randomly in game. They're just loud and annoying to scroll with. Side buttons are quite good, decent amount of travel, nice click. So overall, pretty solid, but could use a few adjustments in my opinion. The build quality is also solid, as you would expect on mice this weight, which is one of the drawbacks in my opinion. These shapes are definitely top tier at the moment, so I will rank them higher despite the higher weights. But I've already asked Zowie if we can get lighter copies. Let's hope they do it someday. For the new versions though, they're all about 65 grams. The EC is still the old version, quite heavy by comparison, so they need to update the EC as well. I assume if they make the other sizes, we'll get similar weight ratios, so you can just check the website for details. And that's about all you need to know for the sizes and shapes. For general use, I'm liking the quality and features, including this really cool base that you can charge them on, but you can also use the dongle and cable if you want to. They're well balanced, good plastics, everything is quite nice. You get a premium feel with Zowie. It just depends if you want these weights, and you're okay with the click feel. On glass mousepads, this weight might be beneficial. On cloth mousepads like I use, I still played well, but yeah, lighter would be better for me. It depends where you're at with your mouse journey. It actually does take time to adapt to lightweight mice and see the advantages, which is why I assume many pros might still be using heavier mice. But once adapted and you stop overshooting your targets, it should free your aim up a lot more. So I'm still hoping for even lighter Zowie mice, but they're great choices with extremely well designed shapes, to the point where many other companies just copy these. So awesome to see Zowie updates, hope that helps. Use your links below, sub, like and share, and I'll catch you in the next.